All right. GM to all my friends, Badge Brigade out there. We got a Rotorun solo run today, unfortunately. Nez and I still working to get our schedule synced up here since his return. Yesterday, a little bit of an anomaly there, it being a holiday north of the border, but not south. I imagine next Monday might be similar to that. But yeah, a little unfortunate that we haven't been able to get this fully figured out, but we're going to have it fully figured out for the next 3 days here. So you get the 2 solo streams at the start of the week, and then we're going to get full-fledged streams with all of us the remainder of the week there, starting with Off and On the Clock tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern with Pete there. But bittersweet weekend there. I wasn't able to draft until Sunday afternoon because I was in the great state of Washington there. So I suffered what Gretsch suffers through all the time, but had some good sweats in the baseball street on Sunday there. And then, of course, last night, man, the puck gods weren't on our side. Seelovs stood on his head. I felt emotion, man. I felt pain as a laundry bro for the first time since I can remember. I'm not gonna lie. It stung. It stung, man. I really thought when they were up 3-2 in the series, going to Edmonton for Game 6, I did think Nuckies had a chance to take it down. I thought they were the better 5-on-5 team. Um, yeah, I thought they looked deeper, and then as the series wore on, they looked thinner and thinner and thinner. But yeah, unfortunate, man. Edmonton's a better team. It's gonna be nice to see, McDavid have a chance here to get a cup run. Though I think Dallas is the best team left. I'm not gonna lie. I think Dallas is really good. We've been on that depth train, veteran leadership. Yeah, but yeah, man, Nick, I feel for you, man. I do. Summer of pain for the brothers, man. Where it's just like we overachieved this year, and maybe the Knicks overachieved a little bit just given the fact that, like, Randall wasn't there and stuff. But, when your team overachieves, it's a summer of pain after because it's kind of like, that was our shot. Now what? Right? So, yeah, anyways, I'm seeing all the GMs, seeing all the GMs in the chat. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Gonna rip through, save some of the football stuff for tomorrow. I thought there was some really cool scroll the F down data between Hayden and John Boy Beats, and Pete had some comments on it over the weekend there. Save that conversation for tomorrow. NFL OTAs kind of like starting up here. I think 21 teams thus far getting after it. I don't know. I put Tank Dell on the cover for tomorrow. Tank Dell participating in OTAs. That's pretty cool, man. That's earlier than I definitely expected. So definitely talk through that stuff tomorrow with Pete, rip a BBM, talk through the Scully F down data. So full football show tomorrow. Today, man, start a 2 new playoff series in the NBA there. We got the Eastern Conference Finals kicking off tonight, or I guess tipping off, not kicking off. Tipping off tonight. Some fun matchup stuff to talk through. I've been doing some drafts. We got the 2-day contest up here for the Hoops guys, and it's a fun one because I think there's a ton of ambiguity depending on how you think the matchups are going to line up. So we'll full deep dive into that. And then something abnormal from the baseball slate right now. We got a 15 gamer that starts an hour earlier than usual. So we got a lot more matchups to look through and jump into there. So we'll make our way into the NBA streets first and then do the baseball stuff. The baseball stuff, it's going to be too much to go game by game. But as John C's alluding to in the chat here, it is definitely a Wrigley day. We got 90 degrees and 25-mile-per-hour winds blowing out where Wrigley plays as if it's Coors and nobody's drafting it as if it's Coors right now. That being said, some good pitchers on the mound in that one. Javier Assad has been, according to ERA and xERA, he has been the best pitcher in baseball in mitigating runs versus his opposition since June of last year. That is gun to my head. I never would have guessed that until doing a little bit of the research there. But some fun stuff over the weekend here. We got to give a shout out to our guy Neumy getting wed. Congratulations to our boy here. Our boy becoming a man. Maybe for the first time. ever a spreadsheet virgin got to enjoy the pleasures. I'm not sure. But new Neumy getting married, man. Big shout out to him. He's off for the next little bit here. They're doing a honeymoon road trip, checking out some national parks and that sort of thing. Yeah, so just really happy for him. But the best thing to come out of Neumy's wedding is this photo that I'm gonna create memes with for the next year, man. Just so good. I just this is the photo we get from his wedding. I mean, this is gonna be memed to no end by myself. But good news with good news comes a little bad news. Pour one out for our guy Teebox, who had a great run. He had a great run on Twitter. Hope everything's good with him. I imagine he was just suffering through exactly what I suffered through when we started doing this show and that sort of thing, where it's just like my boomer ass ain't ready to keep up with digital stuff on my phone over and over again. So yeah, he is officially logged off the Twitter, and in true T-Box fashion, he sent out a tweet and then instantly deleted his account, so nobody saw the tweet unless you had the screen grab. So shout out to our guy Cowboy Five Rings, who was able to grab it and circulate it here. So all our best to Corey. Hopefully everything's good with him. I imagine he just needed a little bit of a mental break from the overstimulation that is the X mobile app there. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, yo, Matt bringing up a good one here. We do need to emote this one up and Dogman Chill with the new meme. I love that. So we need to get a new meme of the new me meme there. I will get one of those in the chat in short order, my friends. Yeah, but let's jump into the NBA stuff. I think it was really good game 7 in the Minnesota series there. That was a really fun watch. Nas Reed, man. Nas Reed took over that fourth quarter a little bit at the tail end there. Um, yeah, but jumping into this next series ahead, we got I just clicked the wrong button and closed my next tab. Bear with me. We had the NBA injury report was next on the docket there, and there is not much going on there. Obviously, Benedict Mathurin still out, which is a shame because they're going to need secondary scoring, especially guard scoring in this series against Boston. Kristaps Porzingis, Zinger's still out there. I don't know what the timeline is. It was like an indefinite timeline. It feels like he has a chance to come back for late in this if this goes more than like five-ish games. It feels like he has a chance to come back. And then Xavier Tillman with the personal reasons. He wasn't factoring into the rotation anyways. It'd been Luke Kennard at the backup 5. But as we progress through the matchups of this Eastern Conference final, I think, man, this 5 stuff is going to be a conversation because we have 10.5-point favorites in the Celts here, which is, I mean, that's astronomical for Eastern Conference finals. But that plays into the pace and that sort of thing where it's like, what do the Pacers do well? Well, they play super fast and they score in transition and they want to trade 3s for 2s with you. They also are the number 1 interior paint scoring team left in basketball, and they were the number 1 in the East. I don't think they were number 1 in the league, but they were number 1 in the East in terms of scoring in the paint. Well, Boston defends the best out of anyone in transition. So that mitigates one of Indiana's strengths right away. But in terms of scoring in the paint, man, you take Zinger out of that paint, you force Al Horford to run and play an up-tempo game, back and forth, back and forth. If the Pacers are able to score and outrun this team in the paint, man, I could see them taking a couple games. They haven't lost at home. They haven't lost at home since I saw the stat earlier. Early March. The Pacers haven't lost at home. So I don't know, man. Yeah, here you go. Nick with a little more context for me. Thank you. Last he heard was at least 2 games of the Eastern Conference final for Zinger. So yeah, we definitely heard similar there. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. It makes for some very interesting decisions because Al Horford, in terms of projection on the site right now, he's quite high up there. But I've seen him fall in a bunch of rooms. I was in a draft earlier with Brad here, and Brad scooped Al Horford at pick 23. So I do think there's a lot of gal brain going on in terms of how these series are going to play different than the previous series. And something about Al Horford being dared to knock down threes and run at a high speed is not appealing to people. That being said, if they play like sag off of him a little bit and they keep Miles Turner in the paint a little bit more because of the driving success that they saw Tatum have in the tail end of the last series there against Cleveland, now all of a sudden, who's wide open in the corner as a stretch five? Well, it's Al Horford. So, I mean, you can paint that narrative both ways, in my opinion, of what people will think is good and or bad with this initial matchup. And until we see it tonight, I'm not entirely sure. I think another one that we can talk through is what they're going to do with Nemhard, because we saw Nemhard get absolutely cooked in the last series by Brunson, and Brunson was clearly not 100% for a number of those games. Nemhard is getting cooked. Then they make the shift to use Naismith on Brunson, and you kind of hide Nemhard. Well, who are you going to hide Nemhard on in this series? Like maybe you hide Nemhard on Drew. Well, that makes me want to have a whole bunch of Drew in these dailies if they're hiding Nemhard on him, right? So it really determines our decision making between Derek White and Drew Holiday will be determined upon the matchup, in my opinion, is kind of like if they put Nemhard, because I don't think they can put Nemhard on Derek White. I don't think they can put him on Jaylen Brown. I think they need a little bit more size in that matchup. So it's kind of like, where do we hide Hallie and where do we hide Nemhard? And there's not as many spots on the defensive end versus Boston to hide those guys, especially when they get set up in their half court, comparative to the Knicks series, where you could kind of find a way to slough these guys off to not as quality as scorers, right? So be very interesting to see what they do here. I think Derek White playing Siakam makes a lot of sense from the Celtics standpoint. Yeah, Chip saying he's taking White over Drew and the others. I mean, I can't fault that because we've seen the Derek White ceiling games be so much higher than everybody else who's getting drafted in that range. But we'll talk about the next ball game comparatively, is because Gobert's thrust into that range in the rankings right now. And I think Gobert's set up to feast on the glass in the next series. Like, I don't think they can run the same five rotation, that being the Mavs, can't run the same five rotation that they ran in the previous series in this series. I mean, Chet's a good basketball player. Love Chet. He is not anywhere near the offensive rebounding force or nearly as big, thick, whatever, as dealing with Cat, Gobert, etc. on offensive glass there. So yeah. The Naismith revenge narrative. I love this, where Naismith couldn't hit a shot to save his life when he was playing for the Celtics, and now he plays for the Pacers and he's got a chance. Anyways, I my initial thoughts on this series is they can't use McConnell as much as they did last series, which breaks my heart. It breaks my heart as a TJ guy, and I want to see him out there a whole bunch and running around. But I really think that they need the shooting on the other end in transition, and McConnell doesn't give you anything in terms of shooting. You can just sag off and double in the other spots and stuff, right? You can get at least a little bit of handling and shooting by keeping Nemhard on the floor. But this series, comparative to the other series, I mean, each of these games is going to be 10, 12 points higher total just because of the pace and the ability to knock threes and stuff. So from a macro landscape standpoint in our draft games, I think I will be trying to target the auxiliary components of this game, especially if we get some blowout run where you can get, some extra, I don't know if you get extra Ben Shepard minutes, or if you get extra like TJ minutes. I don't know. That's kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth there, but like we're going to be able to find like some auxiliary pieces from this game, especially when we know the Pacers are rolling like 9, maybe 10 deep in terms of rotation comparative to the other series, I think. I mean, I think maybe there's sexier names to click on the other series, like Nas Reed or something like that. But it feels like if you want your auxiliary fifth and sixth rounders that have the potential to go off and or stay on the floor longest, even if there's blowout run, I think it's going to come from this series just because of the pace, the depth of rotation, and the implied totals. Right? It's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see it play out. I do think this is an interesting series. I mean, the smart money, the conventional take is going to be Celtics in 5, Celtics in 6, as long as they don't fuck around in game 2 and do what they did a little bit with that Cleveland series. I think that's where kind of like conventional wisdom's going to settle. That being said, man, the Pacers, if they start knocking shots, especially in transition, and they can get to the rim in transition, they can put up numbers, man. They can put up numbers and score with the best of them. So if you keep trying to trade threes for twos, that feels like the formula. I mean, it's not groundbreaking, whatever. It just feels like the formula that the Warriors would have used like 4 years ago. It's just like, all right, we'll just keep trading threes for twos and play fast and hope you guys settle for drives despite your ability to shoot the three-pointer on the Celtics side. So I would be daring them to take the ball out of Tatum's hand because we saw what happened last series when Tatum's able to drive the hoop, right? Be daring them to take the ball out of Tatum's hand, put it in Jalen's, force Jalen to try and run the offense, make those tough decisions. There you go. Yeah, that's kind of like long-winded way of saying like, yeah, I agree with the meta of the field of like, yeah, Celtics should roll here, but you got to paint both scenarios, right? All right, I will pull up the projections and ADP from the site here to talk through the next one. I really think that you can make a good case for Tatum being the 101. Now, do I think you should draft it that way? Maybe if I was only doing like 50 of them and I wanted to get hyper exploitative and get over the field, the Tatum spot feels way better than Luka dealing with the best defense in basketball with the most length. So, what is Dallas going to have to do to switch up what we saw in the previous series where it was basically PJ Washington ball, right? And PJ Washington is camped out in the corner there. What can go differently for Dallas? And I think, and the reason Kyrie's on the cover is because I think they have to funnel more offensive driving through Kyrie. We saw Kyrie play a great distributing role and not really attack, especially early in ball games in the previous series. He was doing the distribution thing. They were taking what the opposition was giving them. Man, Minnesota can defend the three. Minnesota is long as hell. Like what do we have to do here? And I think what it boils down to is the Mavs kind of like bigs in quotations pieces of like Gafford and Lively look far less appealing in this series than they did last series. Last series we were looking for them for auxiliary output scoring. It makes me not like them very much. It makes me like low key Derek Jones Jr. because I think Derek Jones Jr. is going to draw the cat assignment, which you know what? No, PJ Washington will probably see a lot of cat, to be honest. But I do think that Derek Jones Jr. will keep him on the floor because they need to match a little bit of length in terms of more so than like scoring with Tim Hardaway Jr. That's kind of where my mindset with that one was at. So I was like, the rotation that we saw in the final game of that series where Derek Jones Jr.'s played 40 minutes against OKC. I think the team trends a little bit that way, and that makes him kind of one of the underpriced auxiliary components. But I'm definitely lower right now than the projection and the field that I've seen drafted thus far. I'm definitely lower on Gafford and Lively. Now, can they find a game and make it work? Yeah, of course. But I just don't think they're going to have their way with the rebounding situation like they did last series, right? And yeah, and then that being said, without Joker on the other side versus Minnesota, Minnesota feels like they're going to have their way with the defensive side of the rebounding, where it's like Joker was winning the glass, and then you saw at the tail end of that series where like Joker was legitimately gassed and like his rebounding floor kind of like dropped, right? But yeah, long-winded way of saying I think I like the Minnesota size. I think I like the depth of Minnesota. Now, what they do in terms of like rotationally speaking, I mean, Nas gave you a lot last time out, and this matchup sets up better for Nas than I think the Denver one did. So, just that last round, I'm kind of fading here. Let me use names so it's easier to articulate, because I think you can draw a line in the sand kind of after this Al Horford and this PJ Washington, and then I put Nemhard at the back end of this tier kind of here, and then you can draw a line and you can kind of be like, what do we anticipate for matchups for the remainder of these players and how we rank them, right? So if Jaden McDaniels can score the basketball the way in which he scored the basketball at the tail end of last series, I mean, I think that's Dallas's number one priority on the defensive end is force Jaden McDaniels to be the guy to beat you, the way that OKC forced PJ Washington to be the guy to beat them, right? Like that's kind of where my mind goes with it. Now that's really hard to do. It's really hard to force the ball out of Ant's hand. It's really hard to force the ball out of like Cat when they don't have Aaron Gordon on the other side, right? So I would be daring them to make Jaden McDaniels beat you. Now that might make him a good pick here because of the opportunity that I anticipate him having, but this is kind of like where I'm kind of like drawing the line is everything after this is like speculative. Um, so if you think Naismith gets the Tatum assignment, he's going to be out there a shit ton, which is a good thing. McDaniel stays on the floor because of his defense and might have the scoring potential if things work in the direction in which I would do it as a coach. Like, whatever. Take that with a grain of salt. That's just fully my opinion. And then I'm kind of skipping this next tier because I don't think the matchup is as nice for Lively and Gafford as it was the previous series. And I don't think TJ, especially in the early going, is going to play as much as he did last time because I think you need the shooting versus Boston. And that's what really hampers TJ's ability there. I think they're going to be able to get to the paint maybe better than they did against the Knicks. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good point. I mean, like GA is correct. McDaniels can beat you, man. Like he definitely can. He showed that he can. Yeah. So, but I think it would just be like, what's the lesser of two evils on the other side of the ball? Dare him to beat you first. That's where I would funnel towards there. Yeah, and then you can decide, man, who's going to be six man up for Minnesota? Are they going to go the defensive route and they're going to give like a bunch of opportunity, or are we going to give Nas Reed a bunch of opportunity? And I mean that in terms of like where the minutes allotment will be. Well, I think that's going to be game script dependent because I think Nas is like kind of like, hey man, if they're trailing a little bit and they need some scoring off the bench or something like that, he's the go-to guy there. So yeah, I don't know. Minnesota, man, they're so deep and so long. Yeah, but as I alluded to here, I was doing the Derek Jones and kind of moving up over this tier because I think Derek Jones's minutes floor is safer, and I do think we do get this like McDaniels versus Derek Jones matchup on the Minnesota side of the floor. So like Derek Jones will be defending Jaden McDaniels there. Like that's what I think. And then on the other side of the floor, I think they do their best to get McDaniels off of Derek Jones and use him on one of like the more dominant ball handling scoring pieces there. Yeah. If the Pacers decide to run Obi Toppin as that backup five pace role, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And then I was kind of like fading this middle tier here. I mean, just definitely mixing in and whatnot. But I was pushing this grouping over, whether it's right or wrong. The Peyton Pritchard one is fun because if this game plays to the spread, if it plays to the pace, you could see both teams go small with the second unit. And like Isaiah Jackson got some run in the previous series. I don't think there's as much need for it in this series unless they just match big body with Kennard. It's going to be like who dictates the matchup with the substitution patterns there, because I do think if Boston's comfortable going to Kennard, then they'll be comfortable going to Isaiah Jackson. But yeah, for my money, I think the second unit should probably play small and play fast if that works. And I think that works slightly in the Pacers' favor. And so I would be trying to push the second unit as running Obi Toppin at the 5 there. So macro basketball thoughts. Let's rip a couple drafts here and see how it plays out. We got the 2 game, just the one price point for today. I think there's a little bit of trial and error with this, like see what they can fill, what they can do, make sure they don't get hung out to dry. The fact that they have multiple slates up for multiple sports right now. So yeah, we got it in here. Razor Ramon saying that Celtics aren't sweeping them. I tend to agree, man. I think they got it. Easy man. What's up, my friend? Good luck. Good luck. We'll do some baseball stuff in a minute here. But Easy got the sheet up and running. Was on Best Ball Breakfast yesterday with Pete. Easy's making a big time name for himself out here. Love to see it. Yeah, Mitch, I got you. We're in here. We're in here drafting. Let's draft. Um, Yeah, no, you're right, Nick. You're right. Like disregarding both the bigs is like crazy. Like I'm not fully disregarding them. I'm just saying I'm moving these secondary pieces up, and then when one of them falls to the backside, yeah. But they're gonna split. They're gonna split the full 48 because there's nobody else to kind of turn to with no Maxi, of course, right? And I think they have to have at least one of them on the floor at all times to match size. So yeah, I just think the matchup's gross in terms of like how they're gonna score. Oh, all right. Standard issue thus far, Luca, Tatum. Um, I've been pushing up Kyrie into this 4-5. I think they need scoring from him. I think they need more of that handling role. I think this becomes less of a PJ Washington series and kind of pushes back more to what we saw in the regular season from that team where Kyrie touches the ball a whole lot more. So my favorite spot right now is where somebody drafts to projection and drafts uh, um, to the ADP or to the landscape of the site right now, and they take Cat right here, and that gives me this Kyrie Tatum pairing. Big fan of that. What do you guys say? We put a little tunage. We got Big Mike in here. Big Mike Z. Yeah, there we go. So the Cat one there. I mean, I'd be interested to know people's thoughts on Cat, like just in general. We know he can shoot. We know he's going to get kind of like the softer of the assignments because I don't know. He's going to get PJ Washington, and PJ Washington has been really good. Don't get me wrong, but PJ Washington is not Aaron Gordon, and Cat was still doing work on Aaron Gordon at times. I mean, he definitely limited him there. I like the Miles Turner just play into the higher total game environment. Yeah, I mean the Boston stuff is there as well. But I was taking Miles Turner and then kind of going like line in the sand here, and then pick your poison between Drew and Derek White. I think Derek White always has the higher ceiling. I just think the matchup might be better for Drew. So we will see there. Yeah, very interested to see how that one plays out tonight. But the minutes are going to be there for both of them. You would imagine. Let's see. Yeah, this is fair, man. Pitch saying Cat started this playoffs by guarding Durant and Joker. So now all of a sudden you give him a softer matchup on the defensive end. Maybe that opens up a little bit more for him on the offensive end as well. So you give him PJ on the defensive end. Not that that's not a tough assignment, but it's obviously nowhere near the degree of KD and Joker. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, it's still a uptick in matchup because going against PJ Washington is probably better than going against uh, Aaron Gordon. Yeah. So I don't know. So the PJ Washington one feels fine to keep kind of like betting on. The minutes will be solid. It'll be good here. I think the ceiling maybe of Nemhard, just given the game, the total, and the handle, and the ability to shoot, is a little bit higher there. And I guess if I like Derek Jones Jr., as I was alluding to earlier, if I like Derek Jones Jr. in this series, I should probably like PJ at pick 15 a little less. Mike Zakarian, see, this is what I mean about the ambiguity of this tier is Mike's going the other way. He's just going Gafford and TJ and pushing them up. And he goes, TJ, they can play small with the second unit. TJ's the handler on that one. He's got the highest ceiling available there comparative to Nemhard. And then Gafford just having to stay on the floor starting and playing 24 minutes. So like difference of opinion on matchup is just seen in our draft picks right there. Yeah. Nemhard there. I guess the ideal situation for us here is probably a Nas Reed fall back to us. I think Nas Reed and or Derek Jones feels like my favorite click in the sixth right now. Naismith has been one that I've noticed falling in rooms a lot. I've seen him go at 24 multiple times. I guess it's just because people think the matchups are going to change. I personally think they're going to leave him, give him good minutes to be out there against Tatum. I think he's your best chance, your best defending option against Tatum there. AWE hopefully takes Derek Lively here, and then we can take Derek Jones Jr. Feels good to me. Yeah, that's kind of like what I like right now. I do think these minutes are real, and I do think he could stay on the floor a lot tonight, and the only or tomorrow night rather. And the only reason they'd have to be trailing pretty significantly to turn to Tim Hardaway Jr. over him. Let's rip one more of those, and then we will talk about the baseball slate. Also, somebody asked, I think it was Go Cards asked in the chat there, my remaining best ball teams. We could take a peek here. I had 9 NBA and 9. I had 9 of both, 9 NBA and 9 NHL remaining, and I only got 1 through in each of them. Obviously, really hard room to get through, or round to get through. But my NHL teams look better than my NBA teams, that's for sure. Or sorry, team. But I do think I am drawing close to stone dead in the NBA for sure. And then the NHL is an onslaught with no Eastern Conference team. So we're gonna have to run hot, but it's the best team left to run hot on, I think. So like just in terms of like consolidation in scoring and that stuff. Yes, appreciate the thoughts and prayers here, Blake. Appreciate it. Tough night last night there. Mike with a good comment here. Bet Tibbs is still going to make Hart run the MSG court for 48 minutes. That's good. Yeah, man. So I do think there's a legit debate here. I mean, obviously, the Minnesota matchup, just like the length on that side scares me. But Luka is Luka, obviously, and triple double after triple double after triple double. But I do think there is an argument, just given first game of the series, 10-point favorites, the way Tatum's been going to the hoop. I do think you can make an argument, but there's definitely a better chance for if Dallas wins and plays well, it's going to funnel primarily through Luka and Kyrie, in my opinion. If on the other side of the equation, if Boston wins and plays well, it doesn't necessarily have to funnel through Tatum, right? They are deep enough. They have enough options. That game could be a high enough scoring game that Boston could win by 12 and Tatum's not the guy you need, whereas if Dallas wins by 12, Luka's almost undoubtedly the guy you need. So just from a draft theory perspective, Luka does feel incredibly safer in comparison. But I could make the argument. I think that getting over the field on Tatum on this specific slate makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know. As you guys can see, I got 13 entries in thus far. I was taking Tatum over Luka because I knew, smaller field one. I knew there was only the one contest. It's already 60% full. I was like, I got to do something a little different here to give myself an opportunity, to give myself a different chance in terms of combos available, or just making sure my entries. I'm only going to roll the 101 in those 10 entries like 2.2 times, right? So it's kind of like, well, let's just double all of our Tatum exposure on 30 entries, knowing that I'm not going to 150 this tournament, knowing that the draft window has already been open for half a day, that sort of deal. So we shall see. Either way, the Willie Mark has flipped the board on us and taking Pascal over here. We didn't really talk about Pascal at all. I don't know what you guys think in terms of matchup. I guess Derek Jones Jr. or sorry, Derek Jones Jr. Derek White. I guess Derek White makes the most sense. Yeah. Ooh, Sam Wilson saying that he only has 6% Luka, so he's sure he's going to put up 40. We get Kyrie to come all the way back here. That's probably a little rare, a little GM. And then I think now the fact that we've kind of like aped into this game environment, I do think taking Gobert alongside it feels kind of nice. I do think Gobert. I think people are misremembering Rudy Gobert's ceiling potential because he had such a tough defensive assignment last series. I do think Rudy could feast in game one. Yeah. Probably Jalen on Pascal. Okay. Yeah, that feels good. Need the length kind of deal. Yeah, there you go. ETR has Luke at 101, so do I. There you go. Yeah, just taking Luka because it's Luka. I mean, there's no reason to. Yeah, I mean, Sam's obviously taking a little more exploitative stance here, or he is just running down bad AF on the 101. I love this pitch. That step back fadeaway from Rudy Gobert. Nothing says it's Jover quite like a step back fadeaway over Jokic from Rudy Gobert. Like that thing was just a pure mimic of his shot. It was beautiful, man. It was pure. Rudy was good from the free throw line too. Yeah, Gobert's such a problem for NBA teams to deal with. He shut them down in the league for a few years ago. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like he's just been he was defensive player of the year this year for a reason. He provides so much length. It's just he is tough, man. He is big time tough. What do you guys think here? We've kind of the pendulum swung twice now on the Minnesota trade, right? Everybody shit all over the fact that they gave up so much to take Gobert from Utah. They gave up Walker Kessler. They gave up all those picks to be like, hey, you just got older Walker Kessler. Now Kessler has a down year this year. He was hurt for a bit of it. They shut him down. Like, has the pendulum swung? Does Minnesota fandom, does everybody think like, hey, we didn't overpay for him anymore if they win a title this year? Or even if they go to the finals this year? Did they overpay for him if they go to the finals this year? I don't know. Like, what is the price tag of going to the finals? Connolly goes there. We could play the Horford narrative of like he just keeps pace and knocks down those threes. I do like going, as I alluded to, for the auxiliary pieces from the other game environment. So, given the fact that we have two Dallas on this team already in a unique combo, I think we do go Horford, and we hope some of the offense funnels through 3 pointers from him, and then we take Nemhard here because I am in the camp that I think Nemhard is a better matchup piece than TJ McConnell for this series. I think Nemhard, maybe not the guy you need. It's obviously going to be a tough matchup, especially if he draws Holiday on the other side of the court. But I do think they use Holiday on Hallie. That would make the most sense to me. So then Nemhard's ability to kind of get some shots off might be a bit easier, and they have to force the ball out of um, Halliburton's hands there early, and then the secondary handling role is Nemhard. So a little bit of bro science, a little bit of projecting matchup in our minds here, but Nemhard feels like a little underpriced to me. Okay, let's see here. The Donovan Mitchell trade is what everyone thinks the Gobert trade was. That's a fucking sharp take. I like that. I like that, man. Yeah. Top stat NFT saying Ant saying, yeah, we probably had them after Rudy hit the fadeaway. That's how it felt. That's definitely how it felt. I didn't see that quote from Ant, but that's so good. That's so spot on. He's not wrong at all. Um Blake saying they still overpaid for him and saying otherwise is still 100% hindsight bias. I mean, yeah, but like, do the results matter? Results still kind of matter, do they not? Like, if they make an NBA Finals now, like, does that matter? I don't know. It's a little talk radio, bro speak, but making a finals could matter. As you guys see, man, like, look at how different this draft looked comparative to the previous one, and equally as sharp drafters in here with Brad and AWE and whatnot. Not to discredit Willie Mark, I just don't know who the F he is. Um, this feels like Obi Toppin over Pritchard, I think. Because if we are painting Al Horford's scoring narrative, I think the ball game is closer than blowout run Peyton Pritchard. That being said, Peyton Pritchard's still going to get his 22 minutes. He could still get his threes up. He can definitely hit there. But just to allude to the fact that, like, look at how different those two drafts look. TJ McConnell went at pick 16 in one of them, and then he went at pick 23 in another one. Al Horford went at pick 15 or whatever it was there, 15 or 16. And in the previous one that wasn't on stream, he went at 23. So, I mean, like, there's just so much ambiguity in terms of how you think these teams are going to play. And I think that makes these slates really, really fun when you haven't seen the way in which they have played yet. And now we're speculating on it. Yeah, they gave up 5 picks for Donovan. And then he's probably just going to walk next year, I guess. They'll protect their investment. He'll protect his investment in himself, right? That's the thought process. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's my macro thoughts on the NBA slate there. Yeah, I got 13 entries in. That contest is filling pretty quickly. I'm going to make sure I get up to 30 or 40 here. Might require some auto drafting on my behalf. We're at 75% already. Yeah, a little bit smaller than anticipated IMO. I think this could have been 18K entry with 8K to first, like we had seen in the past, but that might have something to do with fill rates of MLB and fill rates of the football stuff as well, although it might be a little early to start considering that. Baseball slate's interesting, as I alluded to. It is, starting an hour earlier, so just be mindful of that the start time is 3:10 Pacific, so 6:10 instead of 7 o'clock. This could have easily been an 8-game slate that started at 7:10, something like that. But it's kind of fun that it's not. It's kind of fun to get a 15 gamer in here which is just something we don't normally see on the platform. So we'll talk through that one. But I did allude to the fact that I would share my remaining dance teams and Zamboni teams here. G Strat in the pool with us, or in the pod with us there. We needed OKC to get through. This was an OKC plus Pacers team. So we're drawing stone dead. We got 3 Pacers left, and that's it. But if we had been able to get OKC through, it's actually wild that this team got through. But it would have been, well, it's not wild, but it would have been awesome to get this one through with OKC there. And then almost all my Nuggets teams, all my Nuggets teams just died a painful death there in the previous round. And then the NHL team is kind of like the only one that we might be able to. DJ Sabes is in our pod that we can leave a light on here. This team scored mega in the previous round. This is a 6-3-3 where I onslaughted Edmonton. This was a paywall stream, I believe. So we got the McDavid, Draisaitl, the Nuge. We got Hyman with it, and then we got Evan Bouchard, man. We can talk about Evan Bouchard. Evan Bouchard outplayed Quinn Hughes in that series like nobody's business on both sides of the rink. It was truly impressive. Like, man, hat tip to Evan Bouchard. He kind of gets lumped in as like a power play piece that's just kind of like, oh yeah, he's the high guy on their power play. Of course he's gonna, score a lot and whatever. Man, he was firing the puck. He leads the playoffs in velocity on shots right now. He was just getting 90-mile-per-hour shots off over and over again and peppering from that top side point. And then he was playing, a full, 200-foot game. So that was truly impressive from Evan Bouchard. Just watching that series and seeing him play live a couple times in that previous series, I gained a lot of respect for, I was not familiar with Yo Game, kind of like meme, despite seeing him. I just thought he was like an auxiliary piece to their team, and he is really a focal point there. Chat's still talking about the NBA trade for the Donovan Mitchell one there. Sam alluding to the fact that Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton were part of that as well. I mean, they gave up a lot for the Spida there, just for him to become a Knick. Yeah. Okay. Let's do a quick look at the MLB slate. We'll do a draft, and then we will call it a day there because I got some real life obligations to get to. Give this a refresh here because the totals are off. Something's wrong with the totals. Something's off. All right, whatever. As we alluded to earlier, 85 degrees, wind blowing out, Wrigley Field playing like Coors Field, but with more home run potential. Nobody's drafting it as such. That being said, Javier Assad been one of the best players in terms of limiting runs against. In terms of limiting runs against since June of last year, or whatever the number was, or the month I threw out earlier was. Charlie Morton, strikeout rate is slowly in decline over the last couple years here. I put Cody Bellinger on the cover there because, man, you hang one of these 40% curveballs. He's been known for his curveball for years. That's been his thing. But he is slowly turning into kind of very similar career arc to Adam Wainwright, except for he still has a little bit of the velocity where a guy who used to throw 98 now throws 94, comparative to Wainwright, whose fastball was just completely gone and he was throwing like 87 and whatever. But just similar career arc in terms of age and pitch distribution. Charlie Morton of the professional pitcher variety now, more so than the elite strikeout rate that he once upon a time was. But that being said, man, these are two pitchers that have the ability to get outs and do decently. So as much as I'm aping this game because of the weather conditions, because of the implied run total, because I think their ADPs are wrong, we still have to remember it's a 15-game slate, and these are professional pitchers on the other side. These aren't gas can pitchers on the other side. So I will be spreading a little bit more than I would kind of like to, just because of range of outcomes on a 15 game slate. Um, yeah, let me see here. Going back there. Um, yeah, one pitcher who nobody is drafting. I'm gonna kind of jump all around because it's too much to go game by game and stuff. But I do think that game is just in general underpriced. I do think one stack that nobody's getting to that I might get to or two stacks, I guess, that I'm getting to that the field is currently not getting to. That is the Oakland Athletics, just in terms of their power profile. It's an awful ballpark. Nobody's getting them for kind of a reason. Cal Quantrill's been a little bit better recently than he had been in the past. There, shout out good Canadian kid, but I don't mind targeting some of these right-handed guys who can barrel it up in a big way. Brent Rooker, Shea Langeliers. I will have some mini 2-mans and 3-mans of the Athletics. I think that spot's okay. Cardinals and O's. This is kind of like the only weather concern game on the slate. I know it appears green here. It is like the similar thing to, oh, there you go. New update, lowering the risk some here. But we got 90 degrees and winds blowing out to right, or out to left rather. So this game is playing kind of like similarly to the Wrigley Field game. So nobody's getting to the Cardinals side. It is Kyle Bradish, who, he was good last year. He was very good last year. He's been decent to start this year. Cardinals have been scuffling, but in these conditions, I'm definitely going to want a little bit of contrarian Cardinals. And then I want to scroll the F down on the Baltimore side. Gunnar Henderson is just an absolute monster. He should be in everybody's household name conversation for AL MVP. He's already up to 15 or 16 home runs. He's going so hot right now as well. But he's basically the only Baltimore player, or basically the only player from this game who gets drafted over and over again. Man, scroll the F down, mix in some Ryan O'Hearn, mix in some Adley Rutschman, though they will both be batting left-handed, so the winds, will favor right-handed bats, but that's true of Gunnar Henderson as well. Ryan Mountcastle may or may not be back in the lineup today there. So just some, macro thoughts in terms of like contrarian stacks. Another contrarian stack that I will be getting to is the Royals, man. Good hitting conditions for Kansas City. We saw Kansas City put a slacking on the A's on Sunday, and then not so much yesterday. It was Saturday and Sunday, whatever. I'm getting my days mixed up there, but I went all in on Miguel Garcia, Bobby Witt, and that kind of like game environment when it was warm in Kansas City with the winds blowing out as well. Just, man, love that park for hitting when these conditions arise. Not as hot as the other two spots, but Kansas City ain't too far from St. Louis there, and they're gonna play up to almost 80 degrees there as well. Yeah, the chalk for good reason is, good reason in quotations, as always, is going to come from Dodgers, Yankees, and Astros. Astros being my favorite of that bunch by a good amount, to be honest. Griffin Canning has not been going great. They need a new solution. The Angels need a new solution in their rotation. They're pretty shallow as is, but he's definitely been getting knocked around recently. And I am a respecter of Brandon Pfaadt, who is going up against the Dodgers. I probably won't play Brandon Pfaadt today. He does introduce a little contrarian leverage and stuff, but decent place to hit for the Dodgers. And Brandon Pfaadt, like, he can strike a lot of dudes out, which is a very nice incentive. It's just, it might not be necessary to get to him in such a tough matchup when we do have such a large slate. There is one pitcher that I am going to highlight who nobody's really getting to right now, who I think they should be getting to, and that's Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt, I know if you throw a fly ball in Yankee Stadium, that those things can sneak out. They can sneak out on any given day, but nobody in baseball strikes out more against right-handed pitching than the Seattle Mariners, and they're probably going to have some watered down lineup just because, like, JP Crawford coming back, but they're still going to be missing Jorge Polanco most likely. He's kind of due for an IL stint, IMO, but yeah, I just think if he gives up a couple runs just because a little bit of that Seattle pop finally shows up and they run into a couple of short porch home runs, I still think this floor of Clark Schmidt as an undrafted guy who can get 8 to 10 Ks in a given game, just like his strikeout rate leaves me to be like, if I'm building out chalky stacks, my contrarian pitcher will be Clark Schmidt today. I will just freely say that. This is a rematch, Rays and Red Sox rematch from a game that we attacked and rightfully so attacked last week there with Rays and Red Sox. I think it was Thursday of last week. Now this game in Tampa Bay instead. Not a game that I want to get overweight on, but definitely a game I want exposure to because I told everyone I am not a Chris Well respecter, and he got knocked around in that game. And there is something about seeing the same pitcher in like a short span like that. I know the analytic bros will not, they tell me no batter versus pitcher, none of this real life anecdotal shit. Man, play a sport for once in your life. It's a real thing. But it's just hard to quantify. Anyways, Rafael Devers has homered in 6 straight games. That is a Boston Red Sox record. He's going for 7 straight tonight. Wouldn't put it past him when a dude of that magnitude is this hot. Yeah. Anyways, that's kind of like the gist of it. Ryan Jeffers would have been a fun one-off until I looked at ADP, and he is going so frequently. Ryan Jeffers, man, he kills left-handed pitching, and his weighted on base is like super north, man. His weighted on base is like in the territory of guys like Juan Soto and stuff like this. It was last week when I looked at it, there was a graphic that was rolling around, and it was Ohtani. It was Ohtani, Juan Soto, Ryan Jeffers. And it's just like, man, stop talking about him as just like a catcher who can hit. Like this dude can just flat out hit. Him and Willem Contreras have been incredible as right-handed hitting power catchers. A good spot for like just like a one-off home run, but his price tag is a little expensive for me. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I could see getting to the Padres today, right-handed Padres against Abbott in Great American Small Park. Another spot that would be kind of popping a little bit more if we didn't have the 2 super humid wind game environments. That would probably be a spot that a lot of people were going to. Musgrove's shown the ability to get lit up on the other side of that ball game. But there are just spots today where you're like, I think you can just like X them off other than like one-offs. Like Pirates, no chance for me. Only one-offs from the Giants, right-handed sticks versus Martin Perez, who gave up 5 home runs in his last time out, 9 runs total. Less than 5 innings, he gave up 5 home runs. Give me a little like one-off home run from like Wilmer Flores or Jorge Soler there. If you give me 3 at-bats from Jorge Soler versus Martin Perez, that looks like a beautiful one. Yeah. Anyways, just kind of like looking at some of these one-off environments. Willem Contreras has been going so well. He gets a lefty here, just one-off home run potential. I probably won't touch the Rangers today, even though they introduced leverage. Ranger Suarez firmly in the NL Cy Young conversation. I mean, he's lower down the list, 5 or 6 there. But yeah, let's rip some drafts here. Yusei Kikuchi is in a good strikeout spot there. I like it. He's going 3rd right now. I think you can keep mix and match pitcher today. I don't think there's a reason to get crazy over the field on any of those top guys, even Logan Webb included, because Logan Webb, he pitches so much better the home road splits. That being said, decent environment to pitch in tonight. I'm going to go in turn Tuesday if anybody cares to join. Yeah, this is a fair point. Yeah, Chipsy saying like second time through like can not matter sometimes. Terrible sentence, but can not matter sometimes. And Paul Skeens second time through against the Cubs, 6 no-hit innings with 11 Ks. Truly incredible. Grill Belichick, smart player, had multiple wins thus far this season. 42% Clark Schmidt. So there you go. Um, Love it. Oh, boots on the ground from Run Good Rick. Maybe the wind will pick up later, but I'm 10 minutes away from Wrigley Stadium and the wind isn't that crazy right now. Wow, love that. Boots on the ground. Love it. John suggesting that the stuff that he's looking at loves the D backs today. Interesting. Okay. Okay. I can get on board with that. Gavin Stone on the other side today. Correct. Yeah, Gavin Stone on the other side. Get some of those left-handed sticks in there. Yeah, man, D-backs are like one of those offenses where they're like a fringe contrarian stack for me like every single day, you know? We got our guy Mitch in here. We got Grill Belichick, aforementioned. Love it. JT McKenzie, good player as well. Love to see it. Who else we got? Cook 05. Don't know Cook. Chipsy, what was his ADP in a seventh inning stretch? Yet to have done a seventh inning stretch, admittedly. So something I got to do in the dream. Maybe that can be in the cards for Thursday there. Yes, welcome Michigan aboard, baby. Welcome, welcome. I mean, okay, so we'll go back to that conversation in a second, GA. I tend to agree with you a little bit, but yeah. Let's start with a little chalky bats from the Houston side here. I mean, Jordan has to get it going eventually, does he not? He's coming around a little bit in the last two games of that series, but dude hasn't homered in a minute. Let's pair these two chalky Astros together and see where we wind up. Maybe a contrarian stack to go alongside it. Some of the aforementioned ones in Oakland there or in the Cubs. Yeah, some lineup notes actually with that Cubs game. Austin Riley has a Q tag. There, he hasn't been put on the IL, and yeah, he was back on the field running and throwing. So I do think there is some legitimacy to the Q tag. Same is true of Nico Horner. Nico Horner has been not yet put on the IL, but has missed multiple games as well. It does leave the light on for him potentially leading off today. Even though maybe if he is in the lineup, they still lead off with Talkman. But just for conversation sake, there, those two players. And then Dansby Swanson's going to come back from the IL, almost certainly come back from the IL today for the Cubs. So expect him in there somewhere in the 5-6 range. I doubt they come back and thrust him into the 2-hole. He was in the 5-6 range previously there. Seen some contrarian Colorado stuff right away there. I mean, Aaron Brooks, nothing too crazy from there. Obviously, an awful park to hit in and score runs in, but like if Aaron Brooks reverts to the Aaron Brooks of old before he came back from the KBO, yeah, the Colorado Rockies could score some runs today, but not one of the contrarian stacks I'm personally targeting today. Uh, wow. Paul Skeen's ADP was like 39. Holy. Jose Altuve comes back to us. I think we take it, and then we either build in two one-offs for home run potential, or we build out a contrarian two-man. Let's go ahead and take Altuve. I do like Logan Webb considerably more than like the next grouping. Wow, Clark Schmidt has really pushed up. That is not where it was at when I thought he was a little bit more of a contrarian option earlier today. I do think in the one-off home run varieties, both Matt Olson and William Contreras make a lot of sense. Let's take Logan Webb because I do think he is kind of my SP1 with an asterisk today. He will be my SP 1.5. Probably cost adjusted, my favorite pitcher on the slate right now. And then Clark Schmidt would be second. There you go. William Contreras goes right away there. Luis Matos has been hot since coming up, but I will not be touching that ADP there. Let's think through Kansas City without Bobby Witt feels bad, even though I like the stack. Um, Cubs could do Morel and Belly. Belly was the cover boy for a reason there. I think we get a hanging curveball from Charlie Morton that doesn't snap off because of the humidity today. And we get a Cody Bellinger bomb. I'm calling Belly bomb today. That's one of my favorite spots, I think. Aforementioned Jorge Soler pairs okay with the Logan Webb, but more of a one-off. I could see pairing him with Wilmer as a contrarian one there. Why don't we go to contrarian Baltimore stuff now that we've heard the weather is going to be better? And the majority of the Baltimore stuff, as will the majority of the Atlanta stuff, on some of these bigger slates, they funnel. It's interesting. Ownership on larger slates in baseball tends to be more condensed because everyone builds similarly now. So, like, if Atlanta doing an Atlanta stack without Acuna is going to be like pretty contrarian on a 15 game slate because the stack is so readily available. Or doing a Houston stack without one of these pieces feels like it's going to be more contrarian because it's so readily available. Um, Okay, so Matt Olson could be a one-off. It comes back to us here. We could do the Oakland one as well, or we could do the Baltimore without Gunnar Henderson. Let's do Baltimore without Gunnar Henderson. We got that wind blowing out. It does play more favorably for righties. So maybe if we, but the problem is they're facing a right-handed pitcher. I would kind of like the Westberg and Mountcastle with the wind blowing out to left, but wind is good for all hitting parties, and both these guys supply enough power from the left-handed side to get it out the opposite way. That I think this is a pretty, I'm not going to call it sharp, but I think it's like a pretty good way to get your exposure to Baltimore, though the stacks are going to hit more frequently. The stacks are going to hit more frequently with Gunnar Henderson in it, of course. That being said, when you do, you introduce so much leverage without Gunnar. If Gunnar just gives you like the 5-point game or whatever, and you get the 2 home runs from the middle of the order left-handed bats there instead. Rip one more of those and then call her a show there. I'm pushing up against this meeting time that I got to get to. Noah, back from vacation. Feels so good to be turning into a stream. Back from vacation myself, my friend, and it feels so good to be drafting again. Appreciate you hanging out, bro. Ghost AF alluding to the Soler leading off versus a lefty on the road. That on the road matters a little bit because I like that he throws that in is, getting you a little extra at bat there, right? When we're stacking teams, stacking that road team does feel better, especially on a 15 gamer when they're up 8-0. Guess what? They still get those extra 3 outs to work with in that 9th inning, whereas the home team would not, and they only play 8 innings. So just little micro edges that he's working through in his mind there, especially with a leadoff hitter like Soler. Another friends and family here, Grill back in here, JT back in here. We got Brad, BRDMC3, one of the living MLB GOAT legends, going here. Be interested to see what he tries to break off in this draft. Some ADP movement since this morning. People kind of buying this Wrigley narrative, and Acuna has moved up to 4th ahead of this kind of next tier. Left-handed power is going to play obviously well at Yankee Stadium. Brian Wu, the ability to strike guys out, but also the ability to get hit hard by left-handed hitting there. So, if you want to do some like Soto at the front end and then push from there. All right, let's do Gunnar Henderson. Do some Baltimore stuff now that the weather's trending in the right direction there. Homered in 3 straight, as you can see. Let's do a Baltimore 3-man and then a contrarian 2 or contrarian one-offs alongside it here and see where we end up. Grill Pelajek taking a stand there with the Matt Olson home run. This is the beauty of baseball. Matt Olson went almost undrafted in the previous one, and then in this draft, he goes 1-0-1, and you can justify both, based on the rosters in which each player is building. So always keep that in mind that, the baseball GMs, uh, you know, they're fun. They're fun, but they are more readily available than they are in other sports. All right. Jordan, kind of standard issue here. I'm gonna get real funky today, admittedly, in pairing together, some teams that other people aren't pairing together. Like I will be doing Cubs and A's for sure. I will be doing um San Diego and backside. I'll do San Diego plus one offs. I'm kind of making a mental checklist as we go through this. I'll do San Diego plus one offs. I will do San Diego plus contrarian Baltimore. I will do Cardinals and hope that nobody else gets to Cardinals now that I say that. And then I will play some Great American Small Park stuff from the Reds side because Musgrove does have the ability to get lit up. Yeah, I like that. Nationals scored 12 runs yesterday. I've seen people stacking Nationals already because of it. Yeah. We could do something fun like take Soto and hope Judge comes back and then do uh, Baltimore with it. And it's kind of like a little GM-y, provided the guys on the far side stay in their lane. But I'm a man of the people. We got to get a little more contrarian than that. Let's go Bobby Witt, maybe a one-off, maybe pair it with Nelson Velasquez or Vinny P there, and then introduce some Baltimore stuff. I think Baltimore, when you take Gunnar Henderson, I think he's going to be unstacked a decent amount, and then he'll be stacked a shit ton with like Adley for sure, and then probably Santander would be the next highest owned stack partner. All right, let's take Clark Schmidt this time. He strikes out a bunch of Mariners, hasn't given up a run in like 14 something innings there, and strikes out right-handed batters at a high clip. That being said, I will get to left-handed Mariners in the middle. Luke Raley going nice now. Cal Raleigh hits better from the left side than the right side. I will get to a little bit of that. So talking out of both sides of my mouth there, but such is baseball, right? Man, I still look over at the chat here and I see this 39 ADP for Paul Skeens and I go, what the shit are we doing? I mean, there's a chance he only throws like 70 innings this year, right? And they shut him down early if that team's not in contention. Yeah, very interesting. All right, chat. What do you guys think? Do we go Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt one-offs and then build a three-man here? Or do I build out Kansas City plus Baltimore or two-man with a one-off in the middle? We could do that as well and just pick a guy we think is going to homer. Let me know. Let me know. Yeah, ADP is so insane, man. That doesn't make sense in any regard. What show does ADP? I'm sure we could look there. John C saying that we should go with the contrarian Arizona stuff. Go Carroll plus Marte / Jock. Not opposed to that. Gypsy's saying 5-leg parlay. 5-leg parlay killed some very, very good teams of mine the other night. Sunday night there, I was all over the Royals and I was all over the Red Sox. And then it turned into all that mattered was who had Kyle Tucker as the one-off with Bobby Witt and Devers and Ton. It was kind of annoying there. So Shota, who was going ahead of Paul Skeens before, who's the front runner for NL Cy Young, is now behind him. Huh. All right. Sure, guys. People draft like it's football, I guess. Let's take Corbin Carroll here. Apparently, we're playing into John C's model here. Arizona stuff is popping. I mean, Corbin Carroll hit a triple the other night. He has no power whatsoever right now. It is sad to see. He's an accumulator now. I mean, Corbin Carroll is closer to Stephen Kwan than he is to Julio Rodriguez or Kyle Tucker, obviously, like all those guys that he was being drafted around in the dingers. It's a shame to see. I think he's legitimately hurt. I think he probably needs some shoulder surgery to repair what's going on there. But that doesn't mean he can't score fantasy points because he can run like the wind. And yeah, we'll use him. But when you're drafting Corbin Carroll, man, it's not in the same vein as once before. I've kind of been lowering him in my personal stuff relative to the rankings in which I had been seeing. Grill Belichick with an interesting team here, using Olsen as a one-off there, building out a contrarian Yankees and contrarian Houston stack. Feels gross, looks gross. It's hard to click, but it's how you win. And no better person to see it from than Grill Belichick, who's got multiple wins this year under his belt. So, just smart there. Let's make this a 2-2-1. Let's put in Colton Cowser so we can have the conversation. We want a right-handed outfielder with the wind blowing in that direction. Santander is going to be hitting from the left side. He is going to be paired with Gunnar Henderson a lot more than Colton Cowser is. Cowser, I don't know if you guys saw, Justin Herzig had a ability to cash out his Rookie of the Year ticket. I want to know where you guys are at in the chat on that. He ended up cashing it out. I think Mason Miller should be the front runner for Rookie of the Year in the AL right now. I think he has been absolutely disgusting and electric. People forget that we were the ones who, I know Jared Kravis has been talking him up a lot on Baseball is Dead. And we were the ones who told him 1 week into the season, what's up with Mason Miller when we were talking about that A's. Go back and check out that episode there. But Justin Herzig cashed out $100 bet for like $600 on a Colton Cowser AL Rookie of the Year bet. I mean, that seems like theft to me. I don't think Cowser had one super hot month. That just was like an auto cash out to me. Especially the way Mason Miller's pitching. Mason Miller's going to be in the All-Star game. People are going to get eyes on him on a national stage, and they're going to be like, this kid's different kind of deal. It's a shame it didn't work out as a starter last year or the year before. I guess they moved into the bullpen at the start of this year. Yeah, but I thought that was a smash cash out there. And Cowser has not been going good until this last weekend. And, he strung a couple walks together, got on base again. But we're talking about a guy with like a 30% K rate that has like people knocking on the door in that organization to steal his job. And some of those guys aren't even in the minors. Two of them are sitting on the bench behind him. Like, there's no reason Austin Hayes as a right-handed stick can't take over, his entire role there. So, okay, we got the mini Baltimore stack. We're going to stick with John C here. Marte or Jock Peterson. Let's do Ketel Marte in this one. And we got ourselves a 2-2-1 with Bobby Witt Jr. as the one-off, and a little bit more of the contrarian Baltimore variety by adding Colton Cowser, hoping he finds that stroke from earlier in the season to it, than adding, say, Anthony Santander. I don't think there's any chance that team will be duped unless you guys dupe me. But that being said, if you put Santander in there, there's a little small chance that it could find its way to Dupageville. Yeah, that is a fair point. Ghost AF, you got to bake into the price that if the A's trade Mason Miller and he ends up on an NL team, can he not? He cannot end up there. Like he cannot end up winning the AL Rookie of the Year. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, Mason Miller wasn't listed on books. Like the rule for Rookie of the Year in the MLB is a strange one. Everybody thinks back to the Randy Arozarena one, where like he nuked the postseason the year before for the Rays and went on that massive tear. And then the following year, he was a rookie of the year front runner, despite having played like a quarter of a season in the big leagues and then killed the playoffs. But just the threshold which he falls under made him rookie of the year eligible. Mason Miller of that same variety, right? Where it's just like the books weren't entirely sure. Noah saying if you had Judge, would you add late from the Yankees? Honestly, not huge on the Yankee stuff today. Just in general, Stanton probably feels like the safest bet to be like a contrarian stack add-on. The left-handed stuff from Verdugo probably plays better, and then the most contrarian of that variety will probably be Anthony Rizzo. So when you can get to left-handed power versus a pitcher who's right-handed, who hasn't been faring overly well against left-handed pitching. Like we could look at the Brian Wu stuff here. But that's funny. Brian Wu with Shohei Otani's face there. Where are we going here? Splits versus lefties. Still hasn't given up a home run against lefties. Really small sample size to work with here. Only his third start of the year. Started the year on the IL. Yeah. Anyways, we'd have to look at his like career stuff. I mean, we can look at last year, I guess. Here you go. So just so you know, I'm not talking out of my ass completely. Most of the power in which he gave up last year in a limited, in smaller inning samples comes against left-handed. Give me Anthony Rizzo as like the contrarian stack to pair with Judge there. Feels fine. All right, guys. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe, that notification bell, drop a comment below. I know it's painstaking. It takes so much effort for you guys to type an extra couple words and stuff like that, but it does go a long way for us. It goes a long way in us coming back out here. It goes a long way in us keeping good, solid ties with the good people at Underdog Fantasy there. Yeah. Scroll back to the beginning if you want some NBA stuff and you're just showing up. NBA, MLB today, a little bit of puck talk. And then tomorrow we will be hitting off and on the clock with Pete. That'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern. We will have all your NFL stuff, OTAs, some scroll the F down metrics, Best Ball Mania 5 draft as well in there. And Brad, we're looking for some new shirts here. So looks gross, feels gross. It's how you win. Print the t-shirts. I do kind of like that. That one just rolled off the tongue naturally there. There you go. Here, Brad saying that the buzzer beater just launched, so there's more stuff to draft in the hoops lobbies there. So go get after that one as well. I got to run here. I got to take Mr. Good Boy for a haircut. I love him when he's all shaggy like this, but he's pretty gross. He needs a summer cut here now that the weather is turning. All right, we'll be back with the full gang tomorrow and then shows on Thursday and Friday. I imagine they will both be at 1 p.m. Eastern, maybe 2 p.m. Eastern if they have to be. But everybody's favorite time of the show. Appreciate you guys. The end. Peace.